overall side.
Up next, we've got Riya Saxena.
Riya Saxena!
Give it up!
Give it up!
All right, I don't know if the song was very accurate for what you got, but it's all right. My name is Riya Saxena. I am a religion major. It's kind of cool. Folks often ask me why religion, and usually I give them like a really nice, sweet sort of an answer. Oh, like I want to diversify my experiences and learn more about the world and history and politics. But really, the reason is my meeting with our school's Christian student group, Crew, or whom I like to refer to as the modern day disciples. Freshman year, Wildcat Welcome, I got a phone call from a girl in Crew saying that I had indicated on an interest form that I was interested in learning more about Crew. And like at the time, I was super into rowing. So I was like, for sure, I definitely want to learn more about the Crew team. I'd love to meet with you. And so we set up a meeting at Norbucks. I go there. I met with an older woman who I presume to be the coach of the team. And a student who I assume is like the captain. And like as I'm walking towards them, their faces are very confused because I look like this. And so like I sit with them and they're like, okay, well, it's nice to meet you. As you know, we are a faith-based team. And I go, oh, I mean, like, I didn't know they were a faith-based team, but, like, and, like, looking back, that should have been the first indication that I was meeting with the wrong group. But I am from Texas, and so, like, a Christian rowing team isn't the weirdest thing. I was like, for sure. I mean, what else would you be? I feel embarrassed to think that y'all were a secular rowing team. And so... So I'm like, yeah, for sure. I love different religions. This is going to be great. I'm going to have a great time. You're going to have a great time. She goes, awesome. So how did you hear about us? Just to kind of get a sense. And I was like, oh, I have a friend at a different university who joined her school's Crew team, and she really loved it. She said it was a community for her, became like her family. She really loved it. She goes, oh my gosh, that's so great. You know, sometimes we have conventions, so maybe we know her. What's her name? And I go, Sahar Muhammad. And she's like, what? Does she, like, find the wrong God? Or, like, find God and then forget to change her name? And so eventually they recovered, and they're like, okay, well, let's just go over some of our fundamental principles. And I'm like, okay, for sure. And so when pulls out this booklet, and it says the 4 points of Christianity on it, and she's like, let's go through this together. And I'm like, let's. And so we go through points 1 and 2, and it's kind of beautiful. She's telling me about her religion. I'm telling her about Hinduism. She's a little less interested in what I have to say. But I was like, you know, this is college. This is discussion. This is why I pay $60K. And so finally we move on to point 3. And point 3 is a Bible verse. She says, can you read this verse and tell me what you think it means? So I read it and I say, oh, I think this means if you don't follow Jesus, you're going to hell. She goes, yes. I was like, oh my God. What if you're like a really good person though? She's like, doesn't count. I was like, okay. I just want to make sure. I just want to confirm. And so then we move on to a diagram. And in the diagram, there are 2 circles. On the left circle, there is a person inside of it and a stick figure inside of it and a cross inside of it. On the second circle, there is a cross inside of it and a person outside of it. She says, which circle do you think you're in? And I go, I think I'm in the second circle. And she's like, that circle's going to hell. So at this point, I had been told twice that I was going to hell. And I was starting to feel uncomfortable. So I really want to get the conversation back to rowing. And I'm like, well, okay, so how often do y'all practice? And I think she took that to mean, are y'all practicing Christians? Because she goes, all the time. I I was like, well, that's quite the time commitment. And she goes, well, it's all for the Lord. And I'm like, it's all for the Lord. But when you want to believe something, you'll make it work. And so I was like, well, Noah had an ark, and arks require rowing. And so rowing is for the Lord. I get it. And so I'm like, okay, that's fantastic. But how often do you meet in the physical world? And she's like, oh, should have said it that way. We have small Bible study on Tuesday, big Bible study on Thursday. And I'm like, all right, at this point, I'm just going to go to one of the Bible studies and I'll ask someone there when practices are. Because even at that point, I believed in my heart that I had met with our just very religious rowing team. And so as I'm walking out of Norris, my friend calls me and she's like, dude, I think you met with the wrong crew. And I was like, what do you mean? So she sends me a picture of Crew's recruitment poster, and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, you know what? It didn't even matter at this point. I've already been told that I'm going to hell, and I can't risk it. So I need to learn about all the religions out there as a sort of insurance for my existential destiny. And I wish that I could have told you that was the last time a person indicated to me that I was going to hell. A year ago, I was flying back from Austin to Chicago, and I was seated next to this woman who just did not want to fuck with me. Even as I was walking towards her, she was looking at me with the fervor of a TSA agent, where you could just tell that she could hear Orientalist Arabic music as I was coming towards her. And I sat down and she pulled out this book and she started reading it with the fury of 1,000 nuns. And she would look at the book and then she'd look at me, and then she'd look at the book and then she'd look at me, and then she'd look at the book and then she'd look at me. And then finally I'd had enough. I was like, what is this book? And so I take a peek, and the cover of it says, Sinners in the Hands of a Loving God. So what I imagined was happening was that she was reading this book and imagining me burning in the fiery pits of hell. But little did she know, my school's Crew had already told me I was going to hell. And so today, thanks to Crew, I'm a religion major who knows my options. Thank you so much.